Welcome back to Tipping Point. I'm your host, Kara McKinney. The left, out of their abundance of mercy and compassion, want to make sure criminals stay safe while raping and pillaging throughout town. Case in point, Democratic Socialist Dean Preston, a member of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, is pushing for legislation to prevent security guards from drawing a weapon to defend property against criminal attacks. Here he is explaining.
Hey everyone, District 5 Supervisor Dean Preston. As the pressure continues to mount for the district attorney to release the videotape of Walgreens security guard shooting and killing Banco Brown, we also need to take some action to make sure this never happens again. That's why today at the Board of Supervisors, I will be calling for legislation to specifically prohibit security guards from drawing their weapons to protect property.
Now, don't let the therapeutic talk lull you into accepting his premise. Of course, human life is more precious than property, but that's not what's at issue here. The right needs to get better at reframing this entire argument to ask monsters like Preston that if human life is indeed more valuable than property, then why do you, Preston, insist on rewarding criminals for doing exactly that? Risking the lives of innocent bystanders trying to go about their normal days just so they, the criminal, can get their hands on some junk to resell, likely for drug money. So who is the one actually placing property over human life? It ain't the armed security guard, that's for sure, or any good guy with a gun. It's the criminal doing that. Another question we should harangue Preston and his ilk with is this. Are we supposed to wait until a robber puts a bullet in someone's brain before a security guard is allowed to fire? And if so, then what's the point of security or cops in the first place? To play coroner after the fact? Or to protect and serve the community, which inherently means living people and not corpses? Why do we have to wait for the criminal to set the pace for how these encounters are supposed to go? Who gave them that special privilege? If no one did, then why can't it be the armed security guard who sets the tone on escalation? The criminal is the one, by his own free will and volition, who chose to start the fight. Don't we at least get to determine how it ends? Isn't that fair? Isn't that just? But of course, these are all rhetorical questions, because left-wing activists know all this, and they don't care. The chaos and the death is the point, to tear down our pre-existing institutions and to rebuild them from the ground up in their image. Just look at what happened in Oakland, California, where an unnamed woman was severely beaten and robbed by two strangers while she was going to a memorial service for a far-left anti-police activist who herself was killed in a violent robbery. You can't make this stuff up. The woman, who's yet to be identified, was walking when two teenage girls believed to be ages 13 and 15 approached her and pushed her to the ground. They allegedly kicked her head, stomped on her face, and made off with her purse and cell phone. A man driving a black sedan shuttled them away from the crime scene, and the suspects who escaped police are still at large. Ironically, this victim was on her way to the memorial service for Jennifer Angel, an outspoken anarchist and activist who is well known in the local area for her staunch beliefs in so-called restorative justice. Journalist Andy No, senior editor of the Post Millennial, notes that the activist didn't want her killers, believed to be black, to be jailed. The GoFundMe page for Angel states as much, and she reportedly had a strict policy of never calling police at her bakery because it's racist, apparently. And the bakery, I guess, still required masks long after COVID and for the vaccinated as well. So these are the kinds of people we're dealing with. Live by the sword, die by the sword. And our new regime, it really does have a funny way of expressing its inverted values. Pedro Gonzalez, the politics editor at Chronicles magazine, he points out on Twitter about a situation breaking in New York City that a, quote, homeless man stabbing somebody on the subway would have received less attention and less severe punishment than a homeless man defecating on the pride flag, end quote. He's referring to an incident in Manhattan where a homeless man is being charged for walking into a restaurant, grabbing two pride flags from off the table, and allegedly defecating on the one and then using the other to wipe himself. Now, when it comes to this case, forget everything I just said about punishing criminals, because in this one singular case, I say, don't call the cops. Let's paint murals of this guy and make him our hero for once. Now, all jokes aside, the reason why this is being treated more seriously than if he had cracked someone over the head in broad daylight is because it's basically blasphemy against the state religion. That's how we have to view it in order for any of this to even make sense.